Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. So, today we're diving into a genuinely profound psychological insight, and that is healing the self abuse within. Guided by the incredible work of pastoral clinical counselor John Baptiste, we're going to unpack exactly what this internal dynamic looks like, why in the world it happens, and most importantly, how we can actually chart a clear, structured path toward healing it. So, get comfortable because we're about to explore a perspective shift that could literally change how you interact with yourself on a daily basis. Section 1. The cruelest person you know. Okay, I want you to consider a somewhat uncomfortable question. Just think about your life, your history, your daily interactions. Who is the absolute harshest, most relentless critic you know? Like when you make a mistake, who's the quickest to point it out and the slowest to let it go? Is it a demanding boss? Maybe an ex or an old friend? Well, as we're about to see from the source material, the answer is usually way closer to home. I just want to let those words sit there for a second. Okay, let's dive into this. John Baptist anchors his analysis in this incredibly powerful quote from author Don Miguel Ruiz. Nobody has ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. It's a total paradigm shift, isn't it? Because, we're socially conditioned to think of abuse strictly as this external force, something done to us by other people. But Ruiz, and Baptist through him, they completely flip this on its head. The most consistent, damaging cruelty we ever experience is actually generated right inside our very own minds. And what's truly fascinating here is how this realization builds to explain our external relationships. The limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit that you will tolerate from someone else. Think about that. Our internal dialogue actually sets the baseline for what we accept from the outside world. If you're constantly berating yourself internally, you're unconsciously lowering the bar for how others are allowed to treat you. It's like your self-abuse literally dictates your boundaries. So if we want to demand better from the world around us, we absolutely want to start by demanding better from ourselves. Section 2. Meet your inner judge. Now, it's one thing to look at these concepts as heavy philosophical theories, right? But to really grasp this, we need to bring it down to earth. Let's look at a highly relatable, everyday scenario to see exactly how this judge operates in the wild. Picture this, you're at work. First, you make a small mistake. Maybe you completely botch a PowerPoint transition or you say something incredibly awkward in a team meeting. Tiny, right? The mistake itself is just a blip in the grand scheme of things. But immediately, boom, the inner judge wakes up. And that is when the real damage happens. Because long after your coworkers have totally forgotten about that awkward comment, you are still mentally punishing yourself. You're replaying the tape over and over. You get trapped in this cycle of long-term mental punishment that completely outweighs the original minor offense. Just listen to the actual script this inner judge uses. It whispers things like, "You are careless. You always mess things up. People must think you are foolish." Notice that absolute final language? Words like always? John Baptiste emphasizes that we have to call this out for what it is. Look, this is not harmless worrying. It's not some productive self-reflection or a noble desire to improve yourself. Speaking to yourself this way constitutes active, ongoing self-abuse, and recognizing this toxic script is the absolute critical first step to rewriting it. Section 3, the self-compassion pivot. Okay, so we've clearly identified the problem, and we've named the inner judge, but we're definitely not going to stay stuck there. Let's look at what John Baptiste identifies as the essential healing approach to counteract all this inner cruelty. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact antidote we need, which comes from the work of psychologist Kristen Neff, self-compassion. It simply means treating ourselves with kindness when we fail, and remembering that imperfection is part of being human. It's such a grounding, beautiful concept. Failing isn't some weird anomaly. It doesn't mean you're uniquely broken. Imperfection is just a shared, unavoidable part of the human experience. Treating yourself with kindness when you stumble, that's simply acknowledging your own humanity. Now, a really crucial point here is clearing up a super common misconception. A lot of people hear self-compassion and they immediately worry, oh no, if I'm nice to myself, I'll just become lazy or irresponsible. But actually, scratch that. Self-compassion does not mean making excuses for everything we do. It doesn't mean lowering our standards or just ignoring our errors. What it does mean is refusing to destroy ourselves while we learn from those mistakes. You can totally still hold yourself accountable, you can still strive to do better next time, but you simply choose to do it without the self-destruction. You choose to learn instead of choosing to punish. So this builds a complete picture of the journey, giving us a really stark choice. Over on one side, we have the wound, exactly as described by Ruiz: blame, shame, and that repeated inner punishment. But on the other side, we have the path of healing offered by Neff, speaking to ourselves with the mercy we would naturally offer a good friend. That is the exact mental shift required here. Whenever you make a mistake, you basically have a choice between these two reactions. Healing means consistently choosing to step away from the wound of punishment and walking onto the path of mercy. Section 4, Healing the Inner Wound. All right, we have the theory down and we understand the definitions, but how do we practically apply this self-compassion pivot in those exact highly vulnerable moments when self-doubt and the inner judge strike? Jean-Baptiste offers this incredibly powerful conclusion. Healing begins when we stop standing before ourselves as harsh judges and begin sitting with ourselves as compassionate friends. I just absolutely love the physical metaphor he uses here. Think about the posture of a harsh judge, standing over you, looking down, distant, authoritative. Now contrast that with the posture of a friend, sitting right there beside you on the exact same level, offering support and understanding. That fundamental change in posture, from judgment to true companionship, is where all the real healing work takes place. Which brings us to our final big takeaway. The next time that inner judge wakes up and starts whispering that you're careless or foolish or that you always mess things up, I want you to hit pause. Catch the thought, look at it, and ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? Would you ever look your absolute best friend in the eye and say those cruel words over a minor mistake? No way, right? If the answer is no, then the voice in your head isn't delivering truth. It's just delivering cruelty. And you have the power and now the framework to stop it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, remember to be a friend to yourself today.